Hello, everyone, to another Toolkit Tuesdays. This is Jessica J. McKay with Knowbility. And welcome back for those of you that joined us for part one of our Trending Assistive Technology in Schools. That was last month's feature discussion. So today, this will be the conclusion with Trending Assistive Technology in Schools part two with Carrie Edelman from Austin ISD. So she will be joining us later today. So thank you so much for being here. And we're just going to go rock and roll right through these slides real quick and get to the good stuff. So our agenda for today, of course, we will be looking at the excerpt from our Access EDU summer conference. For those not familiar, this was our first ever conference that we had this summer that was based specifically on assistive technology accessibility issues in the K-12 space. So we were really excited to have some great presentations and sessions such as the one that you're going to be looking at today. We did edit for time and for clarity. And then at the end of today's session, we will have Carrie from Austin ISD joining us for some question and answer time. So if you have any questions while you're watching the video, if you want to put them in the chat, we'll make sure that we get to them at the end once the video has concluded. So Mark and I will be here to collect all those questions, have them ready to go when it's time to meet up with Carrie at the end. All right, so let me go ahead and get this video started. I'm really excited about this. I know we had a lot of great feedback from last month's session, so I'm really excited to see the conclusion or part two of Trends in K-12.
All right, so this is part two. Part one we just completed 15 minutes ago. So go ahead to the next. All right, so what we covered in part one was we talked a lot about trends in AT, specifically in K-12. So we talked a little bit about instructional versus assistive, how those two play together, don't play together. Accessible digital text, the new meaning that's taken on since we've done so much remote learning. Universal design for learning, how that has also kind of been affected. Common tools, we talked about text to speech, speech to text, how those are many times teachers are talking about speech to text, but they're saying text to speech or vice versa. What word prediction is, and then we look specifically at the PC and the Mac operating systems and what kind of assistive technology accessibility is built into those two. What we're going to cover in part two is we're going to get a little more into the weeds of the Chromebook, the Google Workspace. AISD is a Google district, so that is primarily what we use, as well as iPads. Our K, first and second grade students are one-to-one with iPads, and all other students in Austin ISD are one-to-one with Chromebooks. So we focus a lot on those two devices specifically for assistive technology and for accessibility. Online, and we'll talk a little bit about the online accessible digital text resources that are available to us through the state, not specifically in AISD. So I'm going to turn it over now to Shira, who is going to take you into the next set of slides.
We're going to talk, like Carrie said, about Chromebooks in the Google Workspace, and AISD, Austin ISD, is a Google district, quote unquote. So we have a lot of students using Chromebooks, especially third grade and up. They're all, since the pandemic, they've all been issued a Chromebook. So we've been able to use a lot of these accessibility features within the Google Workspace suite and also on the Chromebooks themselves on some of our students. And that could be 504, general ed, special ed. A lot of students are using these at home. So within an actual device, a Chromebook, so some of them are touchscreen and some of them are not. We're updating all of them to be touchscreen. Hopefully they all, by next school year, will all have touchscreen devices that are Chromebooks. And that adds to just a whole nother layer of accessibility for some of our students. But those Chromebooks actually have built into them some of the features I was talking about in part one. So text to speech, where you have the ability to highlight any text you see on the screen, press play, and then have it read aloud. A screen reader, which I think traditionally a lot of people think of JAWS when they hear the word screen reader, which raise your hand if you've ever heard of JAWS. JAWS is going to be a very comprehensive screen reading program, but this is going to be just the free, quote unquote free, but it comes with the actual device of screen reading for whatever is on your screen. So just because you have a screen reader built into the Chromebook doesn't mean that what you're having read to you makes sense. So in other words, the things that are on your screen that within the websites, they need to be accessible and read aloud by the screen reader in a way that the person who's using the screen reader can understand the information, and that information is in logical order, that it makes sense, that when you hit the correct keys, it is like logical to your brain when it's being read aloud. So yes, you can have the screen reading, but like we said in part one, it all needs to be built with that universal design in mind and that accessibility in mind to make it make sense to the person who is using that tool. So we also have high contrast and magnifier, which is equivalent to like a zoom that is built into the device of the Chromebook. And the thing that I think is very useful for some of our students is the on-screen keyboard with word prediction. When you go into the accessibility settings of the device, the Chromebook device itself, you can turn on word prediction. And I'm going to click on this and hopefully it'll pop up this video that I made.
To use the accessibility settings in your Chromebook, you go to the time, click on it, and go to settings. Scroll down to advanced and scroll down to accessibility. Click on the accessibility menu, and then you can click on all the features that you want to use. I have the on-screen keyboard enabled, and you can see that little button right here. So I'm going to get out of this settings menu, and if you click on the keyboard button here, the on-screen keyboard comes up, and you can either use the mouse or your finger on a touchscreen keyboard to get the words that you want to type and type the letters you want to type. Then you see the word prediction up here. Tap on the word that you want to use. To get the handwriting feature, click this little caret and click on the squiggle, and then you can draw in the word that you want, and it'll also try to predict the word that you are trying to type. And then to get back to the keyboard, you press on the keyboard, and that's it.
Okay. So, how do I make this bigger again? There we go. Okay, can everyone hear me again? So, I really like the word prediction, the fact that it's built into that keyboard, and also the fact that you can do that handwriting feature, because some students, like especially for math, I've had requests for students who they want to be able to they draw the numbers or the expressions or any of that math language better using their finger rather than having to search for the keys on the keyboard that are appropriate to use for expressing what they're learning in math. So the ability to toggle back and forth between those two, I think, is pretty helpful. And it's a really cool feature that parents and students have been able to enjoy having those Chromebooks at home during the pandemic. Now we're going to get into the Google Workspace, which includes Google Docs, Google Sheets, Google Slides, all those other tools. And so what we're mainly going to be talking about is Google Docs, since it's the one that we use the most here in Austin ISD. Some of these features you will find in the other tools in Google Suite Workspace, and some you won't. So it really just depends, and we can go through those specific questions if you have them. I have two categories on this page. One is assistive technology tools there at the top, and the other is other tools. I want y'all to remember that either of these things could be classified as assistive technology for any student that might need them, and absolutely need them to be able to access the curriculum is the qualification we use for assistive technology. So if a student really absolutely needs preferences, for example, then that could be considered assistive technology. So just because I have those labels doesn't mean we can't interchange them. So some of them that you'll find in Google Docs is under the tools menu, voice typing, and it's one of our most popular features we have built into our Google Chromebooks and our Google Suite there. So it's their speech to text. And if you've ever used it, you have found out that it doesn't need any training. It doesn't need you to practice. It doesn't need you to be very careful with it. It sort of picks up everything you're saying pretty easily. And I know Google, you know, for better or for worse, uses, you know, what information they have about all of us to sort of make that really smart. But it's been great for our students to be able to use, and they try that out and see if it's a tool that will work for them. Spelling and grammar check is pretty simple to use in Google Docs as well. We've all seen spell check. Grammar check is the same way. I tried it, like, for example, with the there error. If you type THEIR, but you mean one of the different ones, it'll do a little gray underline under that particular word. That's the grammar error. And then if you click on it, it'll populate a little bubble that will correct your error. And so you can choose to select it, and then you can correct it by just clicking on it. Smart Compose is a relatively new feature, and I'm going to try to demo it. Now, I want you guys to know that, how do you minimize it? Oh, escape. That I have this little paragraph here, and it's going to be, this is about Mount Everest that I got from Wikipedia. And what Smart Compose will do is, if you go under Tools and Preferences, it'll be there as a little check mark. And I have it turned on. So what it'll do is, if you start writing a sentence that's about the topic that you have here on your page, it'll have a gray populated number of words that it thinks that you might want to use. And all you have to do to have all of those filled in is to press the tab key and have them all filled in for you. I'm going to try to write some simple words that maybe are used in this paragraph. If it doesn't show up because, you know, it's not particularly picking up on that, we'll just see what it does. So this is just a good example, actually, while we're doing this, is some of these features, though they're built in and they could be really helpful, sometimes they work exactly the way you want them to for kids, and sometimes they don't. And of course, when we're presenting, it's always the time that things don't work exactly that you wanted to, but that's just something to know about being a presenter. So let's see if it works. So Mount Everest
Of course.
is a worldwide attraction for many climbers.
Now type that same sentence again.
I'm going to type the same sentence again as Carrie said to do. And this is what happened. There you go. It's a worldwide mountain. Is that what I want to say? Probably not, but I could if I wanted to. I just hit the tab key, and it came right up with putting all that whole thing in there for me. Present. Okay.
No speech.
Okay, so the other tools we have in the tools menu that I think are kind of pretty helpful for our students and for anyone else, like I said, these are universally designed to be able to be helpful for not just your special ed students, but any of your general ed students. Is the Explore tool is super helpful if you want to search for a particular topic. If you pull up that Explore option, it pulls up a little sidebar where you can search both Google and your Google Drive all at once. You can search Google for web results with web pages of relevant things you're looking for, but also search Google Images. If you find an image that might support, for example, a topic you might be writing about as a student, you can click and drag that right into your answer. So it's really cool that it all kind of works together. Word count is great for our students who really need that reinforcement, that look at my word count. I've already written, 105 words and I only have like XYZ number to go, something that might be motivating for them, help them with that social emotional piece. And then preferences, I think, is a great one. Like, for example, if there's a student who misspells the word the every time they type it, they spell TEH instead of THE, you can put that in the automatic substitution and it'll automatically replace that word every time you misspell it. Compare Documents is relatively new. I think it came out last year or maybe the year before, I'm not sure. If you hit that button, it'll combine 2 documents into one, and you can see maybe where you've left some things out or where some errors were. I haven't seen it used a ton, but it is there, and maybe as we go on, people will use it more and more. So it's a good option to have, just to know about. So now we're going to get into some of the paid extensions that we in Austin ISD use. If you've ever heard of Don Johnston, it's an assistive technology company that makes some great products, and one of them is called CoWriter Universal. CoWriter is a cloud-based program, so it functions from across a bunch of different platforms. So it's a Google extension. It can be a resident piece of software on a computer. It can also function as an iOS app. And it provides really smart word prediction based on the student and what the words are that student uses frequently. If they frequently misspell the same word over and over, CoWriter will do a great job of trying to predict that word as the student uses the program more and more. It's also really smart when it comes to spelling and word prediction. It gets what students are trying to say phonetically a lot of the time. It doesn't work 100%, like nothing does, but it is a good one that we just think that their word prediction does a good job for our students in particular. It comes with text to speech and speech to text. So it has reinforcements with text to speech within the words that are predicted. So if you have a menu of words that are predicted, you see the one you want, but you're not 100% sure, you can swipe over it or mouse over it and have that word read aloud to you. If you want to choose that word, then you click on it or tap on it. And then speech to text is built in there too, and it comes as a microphone button on the Chrome extension or on the iOS app using that little microphone there as well. And it's smart. It's easy to use, and it uses voice typing on the Chromebook. So technically it's all sort of using the same program, but it's just a different interface. Snap and Read is something that we just got this past year in Austin ISD, and it helps to make inaccessible documents accessible, or what we call OCR, which is optical character recognition. Basically, any text you have on your screen that might not be interactable, I don't know if that's a word, but if you, like, for example, you see a picture of text and a student needs to have that read aloud, but can't use the mouse to highlight that text and have it read aloud, this program will convert it to a document that you can have read aloud. So let me just show you how that works. Basically, it comes up as, it has its own little interface right here, and it's this extension. And we pulled up this particular PDF from the National Center on Accessible Educational Materials. It has both options for having text read aloud. You've got the click and speak here. So if you click this button and then come over here and click on the text you want.
To help you remember the best practices for presentation.
And I hope you could hear that. It started to read it aloud. You also have crosshairs for a screenshot reader. So if you just click on it and select a bunch of the text, it'll have it read aloud. And this is pretty simple, straightforward. I'm just going to do one sentence here.
Getting started with present.
So you understand that, like, there is that delay. If you're a student sitting there, I mean, picture yourself as a student who needs to use this tool, and none of your other, fellow students are using it. You might need headphones. You might have a slight, few second delay in having that stuff read aloud to you. So while everyone's raising their hand to answer the question, you're still having this read aloud to you. So those are just things not to discourage people from using, but to keep in mind that it's a different experience when you're using these tools than having, so those teachers need to be aware of all those different types of tools and students that are in their classroom. They also have a nice vocabulary leveler tool in this little suite, and they have a color overlay, which can be helpful if you just, want to have an easier time seeing the text on the screen. All right, moving on. Text Help is another company that makes a paid extension / app that we use a lot for word prediction and all the things I'm going to talk about. Text Help makes Read and Write, which is a cross-platform functionality program. It is cloud-based, so it has a login just like CoWriter does. It'll predict the same type of words from device to device if there's a student using a Chromebook and they log in on the Chromebook and Read and Write, or if they use an iPad and they log into Read and Write, it'll have the same memory of that student and the words they frequently use. Their word prediction is good. They do have a function where they can change the amount of words that are predicted, and it goes all the way up to 10. I think that's the default. So that's just something that to know about, that you need to maybe fiddle with the settings if you're looking at it. You want to customize settings per student anyway, but it's just the student themselves can look at options of how they want to customize it. Text to speech and speech to text are also built in. They're really easy to use. Text to speech, especially when you're in like a Google Doc or a Wikipedia page, you highlight the text that's there and there's a play button. And you just press play on their little toolbar and it reads it aloud to you. But it also has really neat vocabulary and study skills support. So it's got a highlighting feature where you can highlight things in different colors and then collect it to one specific document for vocabulary support. Or it's got a screen color overlay thing that helps with reading. It's got translation. It's got a picture dictionary. It's got a dictionary that you can have all the definitions read aloud. So if you highlight a word, hit the dictionary button, you can see the definition and hit the play button, have the definition read aloud. It's really a wonderful and robust suite of tools that we've been able to use. It has their little OCR, like I said, optical character recognition feature, screenshot reader, PDF reader. I'll be honest, I haven't found it as intuitive as, Don Johnson's tool, which is that separate little suite, but take it as it is. It's still there. It's still a great tool. It still helps to OCR, which is frankly, when I started this, a very quote unquote fancy thing for somebody to have an accommodation for. And now the fact that it's built into these programs and that it's relatively inexpensive compared to where it was is pretty impressive. And it's a good thing to know about. Another Chrome extension that's really simple and just a light version of text-to-speech is called Speechify. Speechify is a Chrome extension. You go into the Chrome Web Store and install it. When you install it, it does, am I talking too much? Okay.
No.
Okay.
We're talking about the chat.
Okay, good.
I'm just trying to keep the chat organized.
Okay, thank you. So it does, when you install it, it does allow you to customize the tone of voice, the speed. If you have a student that needs it read aloud, things read aloud slower than faster, you can change it from a male to a female. So it doesn't have a ton of different, tools and things that you can use with it, but it does have a few customization options for text to speech. And that's the only thing we use it for. You may or may not have heard of Grammarly. I like this for what we were talking about with another tool from before, which is the tone of the reading. Yes, it'll correct your grammar. It'll correct your spelling. It has a little green circle that comes up when it's turned on the bottom corner of your screen. And then when you have some errors, it'll turn into a 1, red 2, whatever it is. Click on it and you can see where you need to correct things. But the thing that I like it for is for my emails, for example. It'll have, a little emoji face to say what the tone of your writing is. And I just think that is so helpful, especially if there's a student that you're working on professional skills with. There's a lot of different ways you can use that. They also have a paid version that is its own within itself interface where you can just do a lot of the same work that I was talking about with the other paid extensions. It'll help. It's great with helping with spelling and grammar. So it's an option. We like Screencastify and we have for a number of years. It's a Chrome extension that allows you to basically hit the button, hit record, and you can record your entire screen, just one tab, your entire browser. going back to a universal design, if you're teaching a math lesson and you need to show a student a different way to be able to work out a word problem or work out a different kind of problem quickly, you can hit Screencastify, have that whole problem worked out in that little video, and then send it over to the student through Google Drive or through YouTube. They can keep referring back to it and have it to demonstrate that lesson. Or we use it for trainings, you know, like if we have a quick training to pop out, we make like a quick Screencastify. I made it for Google voice typing and other things, and you just send it over as a link and they can watch it really easily. It's been pretty helpful. And I'll turn it over to Nicole.
All right, built-in assistive technology tools for the iPad. Next slide, Miss.
Okay.
So what can my iOS device do? So one of the things that I always like to point out to people is that phones and iPads have different functionality, because sometimes when you think, oh, I have this mastered on my phone, and then you go to use the iPad and it's in a different place or a little bit different, just keep that in mind. But most of the time, all of these functions can be used on both devices. So there's vision, hearing, and touch accessibility, word prediction that Shira has talked about, the Siri, the speech to text we've talked about. One of my favorite features on an iPad is guided access. The reason it is my favorite is we have some students that when they're working, they get off task and will want to go to other apps on the iPad instead of stay on the app that they're supposed to be in. And so with guided access, you can block a student into a certain app, and then you'll need a password to get out of that app. There's also stuff within the restrictions that if your iPads are managed by an IT department, that you can set up so that students can only get into certain apps during certain times, which that can also be very, very helpful. The other time that guided access comes in very handy is for students that are using their iPad as their communication device. And that way the guided access can be locked into their augmentative and alternative communication software program, like Touch Chat or predictable,
Predictability?
Yes.
Or predictable. I think it's just called predictable.
And so the other things on the iPad that are wonderful is to be able to go to that accessibility shortcut app that is now available, and you can set up the shortcuts that you prefer into your app, and then it makes it really simple to get to the things that you use on a regular basis. On the iPad, you can speak, cut, copy, and paste almost anywhere, which is really nice. Keyboard options can be personalized, and you can also personalize the language on your iPad, which is coming really handy with our second language learners, and to be able to personalize their iPad to their language. And the other nice thing about when you personalize it, then it also includes the prediction. Yeah, we can go next slide.
Okay.
Thank you. Features of the Notes app. This is one of our apps that we feel is underutilized and can do so many wonderful things. If you're needing to annotate on a picture or a PDF, because that is what your teacher has given you, the Notes app comes in really handy, because then you can use the markup tools, which is the pencil. There's a text box, an on-screen keyboard, highlighting tools, and you can do everything you need to do, resave it, and then share that back with your teacher. So it's one of those tools that we wish we really didn't have to use, but comes in really handy. One of the new tools that is also available within the Notes app is that you can add your signature. And so if you're filling out documents online and you need to be able to sign something, you can use that Notes app to take a picture and have your saved signature in there ready to go. And then here's a short video about some of these cool tools.
Hi there, Jamie Keat here today at Teachers Tech. Today I want to show you how to use your iPhone to quickly scan in documents and send them off to whoever you need to. Alright, so this is going to be a quick video, but I think this could be a really handy tip for you. Now, I'm going to go ahead and open my notes on my iPhone. I'm going to go and create a new note. I could take a previous note to do this too, but I'm going to create a new one at the bottom right-hand corner. At this point, you can see that there's the camera icon. Go ahead and click on that. Now, scan documents is there. So I could take a photo or video, but I want to scan this document. And I just have a piece of paper beside me here. And I'm going to take it at an angle. And I'm just going to take it. And you can drag the corners to adjust what you need. So if it's skewed or if there's something in it, you can see how I can go ahead and adjust those corners to bring them in to get what I need. So I'm going to even bring these in a bit more here, just like this. But I won't spend too much time for this example. But I'm going to go ahead and keep the scan on this one, and I'm going to go ahead and hit save. So at this point, I could write a note on it. I'm not going to bother writing a note, but I'm going to hit done. Now, if I go ahead and just click on this image, at the very bottom, I have some more options. If you wanted to make some more adjustments, maybe you wanted to crop it a little bit more, I could hit the crop and I could go back to that. I'm just going to hit cancel. I could adjust the colors. If I didn't want that shadow, could I get rid of it? I'll go to grayscale, and you can see how that changes it, or black and white. So you can go through and make adjustments to it from there. But let's say you're all done. I'm just going to go ahead and hit done at the top on this one. I want to share this. I can upload this one just by hitting that upload in the top right hand corner. At this point, you could text it out to people. You could go through AirDrop it, Mail, Gmail. You could use all your different apps that you have hooked up to your iPhone to deliver it the way you want. Now, I took mine at an angle. If you took a little bit more time and more light, you'd make your scans a little bit better. So I hope you like this tip. Hopefully it can come in handy for you to quickly scan in information using your iPhone and send it off to whoever you need to. Thanks for watching this time on Teachers Tech. I'll see you next time with more tech tips and tutorials.
The next app I'd like to talk about is Apple Clips. Apple Clips is a free app for your iPad and iPhone. It has live captioning, which comes in really handy. Some of the benefits of caption videos is that it's accessible for deaf and hard of hearing. Captions promote literacy. They increase comprehension and memory, particularly for English language learners. And so the app is fun to play with as well. You can create your own little videos. You can take old pictures and put music behind it. So fun app to play with. And it's one of those I think that we kind of just don't know about yet. And some other notable iOS apps. Shara talked about CoWriter and ReadWrite. So I just wanted to make sure that you all know that they're also available on the iPad. They work a bit differently on the iPad. They're apps that can be integrated into the keyboard so that they're available within Google for keyboarding, and they work really well. You can also access them by the web and then have access to them that way. They do need a paid subscription to have access to them. DoodleBuddy is a fun app to write on, and some of our students who are working on writing really like that, especially with our occupational therapists. They like DoodleBuddy and SnapType. SnapType, you can also take a picture of a document and then annotate on the document. Comes in really handy. Now that Notes is available, SnapType is not as needed, but still some people prefer SnapType because of the ease of it, how easy it is to use. Adobe Fill and Sign, Claro PDF are just some other ones. Kidinspiration and Inspiration are mind mapping apps. And for when we're trying to brainstorm and get all of our ideas out, they come in really handy. And a lot of kids really like the pictures and the visuals that Kidinspiration especially provides to them. And it's a really friendly app to use and can just really help with that brainstorming process. Panther math paper for our students that are having difficulties with writing, and they've tried to use graph paper, they've tried turning the paper sideways, they've worked on their handwriting for years and years, and they're still having difficulty. Then transitioning to math paper, which is a griddable app that allows the students to have access to a lot of common symbols and signs that are used for math. And many students have shared that they like that it's easy, it's right there on the iPad. They can use their finger or a stylus to access the numbers and the different symbols. But once they're done with their assignment, they can share it with their teachers, and just makes a lot of the math problems that have not been accessible in the past accessible. We've also tried to express to teachers that if they can provide the students with a, even a digital Google Doc instead of a worksheet that for math, so that students can complete the math on the computer or Chromebook or iPad, that also helps in that accessibility process. Speechify, Shira talked about, there's also an app for it. And then there's the Google and Apple suite of apps. We are Google District, so we use a lot of the Google apps as far as the Google Docs, Google Sheets, and Google Slides. One of the great benefits now that was difficult before is within Google Slides, before you couldn't use the speech to text to talk into the slides and add your words, and now you can, which is really nice. And then the last thing is our AAC apps with on the iPads just have opened up a whole nother world for our students that often before needed a very expensive dedicated device. Often now the iPad with a software program for AAC meets their educational needs.
And just in case, because we haven't covered it yet, AAC is Alternative Augmentative Communication. So it's really a program used with speech therapy and used for students who have a need for enhanced communication using some of those apps. That's a huge subject that we haven't really delved into. And if y'all have any questions about it, we can answer the best we can. We do have a speech therapist in our office that uses all those apps, and she's fantastic. And if y'all have questions, again, let us know or email us at the end.
We should help with that, definitely. Last slide is about accessible text resources. And this is something that Carrie and Shira both talked about as far as the accessible text and the importance of over the pandemic, when it became very real that students were going to be learning from home, and students that often had their books read to them by their teachers or by a teaching assistant or by a classmate no longer had that person available to them. And so they really needed that technology available to read their books and their assignments to them. Some of our favorites are Learning Ally and Bookshare. Texas State Library Talking Books program is a new one to us. Learning Ally is what a lot of our students we find really like, because it's a real person reading the book. And so students have expressed that they have a preference for that. When Learning Ally doesn't have a book in their library, then students will often try Bookshare because then the books are digitized, but they will at least be able to listen to the book and still have access to it. And that is our presentation today. I got through it 4 minutes to spare.
One more thing on the accessible text is that there are a couple of differences between Learning Ally besides just the human voice. The highlighting is different. Bookshare tends to highlight word by word, even though it is a digitized voice. Learning Ally, most of their highlighting is sentence by sentence. And there is some research that talks about kids having the highlighting, the synchronized highlighting word by word while they're listening can help improve fluency and some other things when they're reading. So that's just another difference. Another thing I have found out, and I haven't gone in and explored yet, but Bookshare is also has a beta for math. So math markup, so doing text to speech with math. I haven't had a chance to really look at it, but I know that's something that they have been working on. So I think that's something that's going to be really cool to follow. So this one got a lot more into some of the meat of stuff. So we're finished a little early. So we're here to answer questions if anybody has questions.
Ready for our Q&A. It's always a good time to meet up with Carrie and catch up on all the trends of assistive technology in K-12. So if you have questions, please put them in the chat, jump on the mic. While you all start furiously typing away, I have a couple that I want to ask Ms. Carrie, because who doesn't when they have a lovely AT guru in front of them. So Carrie, I just wanted to touch base with you a little bit. I know we posted, this was a video that was done in the summer. I just wanted to know if there was anything that you've come across this fall that you wanted to highlight or send people to check out.
The only thing that we probably spent more time working with since school started was a lot of the accessibility features that are built into the Chromebook. So because speech to text has become a huge thing with a lot of students that struggle with writing, you can't always use it. Google Voice is built into Google Docs. It's Google specific. So if you're in other areas where there may be text input, how would you access speech to text for that? And so we found that the accessibility features that are built into the Chromebook, you can turn that on and it works pretty nicely. It's pretty smooth. So that's kind of been, it's also the text to speech. The Chromebook has a text to speech feature built in so that you can select text anywhere you can select, and puts a little microphone down in the bottom of your tray and you click on it and it reads the text to you with some highlighting. So nice features that they've put in there. There's also word prediction that is built into the on-screen keyboard on a Chromebook. So if you have touch screen Chromebooks, you can put the on-screen keyboard on and it puts the word prediction above the keyboard, which is just a nice way, if nothing else, just to try a word prediction program, kind of try how word prediction might work and see if it's something that kids might benefit from. So those are some of the things that we've had more questions about, and we've been able to kind of guide teachers in that direction. So
Nice. It's always nice to have those built-ins, and even if
yes.
it doesn't have all the bells and whistles, at least it gives you a place. Is this the good path to start
Yeah.
down? Excellent. And just to answer, there was a question about the slides. Yes, they will be posted on our website by the end of this week. I made sure that they were all tagged and fully accessible PDFs, so they will be up by the end of this week. And I'll make sure that we have a link to the website at the end of this session as well, just so that way you know where to find not only the slides, but all of our recordings for our Toolkit Tuesdays are there as well. Okay, let me just check through here before I ask my next question. And one of the things when I was working as an AT specialist in schools, and especially working with the Chromebooks and all those different devices, was you always get all these tools are great, but how can I make sure they focus, or how can I make sure they're not going places they're supposed to go? So I'm curious if you sent them anywhere in particular, or if you had any advice for them.
It's interesting that you asked, because we just had this morning an email from a teacher with this exact issue. And the student had been previously using something that they had found, a Chrome extension that I think the parents may have found, but the district our district has blocked almost every extension except for the ones that they can get approved that meet our criteria. So his extension, unfortunately, was one of them. So because it didn't meet the criteria AISD has for extensions. But that being said, one of the programs that the district uses is called GoGuardian. I don't know a lot about it, but I know that that's what it's used for, is to monitor students, how they're using their Chromebooks. And there is a way to block websites or certain sites from kids. I don't know if it's something, and that's one of the things we're trying to explore with our tech department this morning. We sent a question over, is I don't know if it's something that can be whitelisted. So like you can create a list of sites that you can block for a particular student, or if GoGuardian works in such a way that you're doing it while they're in that site, you're able to go in and block it. So I'm not sure about how that functions exactly, but I do know that it's one that our district adopted for that purpose, for teachers to be able to monitor kids on their Chromebooks. And yeah, we get, that is a question that comes up. Yes, kids like to go off and do other things when nobody's watching. So surprise. But yeah, that is one. And I know there are other extensions that exist in the Chrome world. We've heard of many. We're just not able to access any. So it's not something we spend much time looking at because we can't use them. So
Yeah. All right. Well, thank you. And I know for me, we didn't necessarily have this specific piece of software or extension. And I think sometimes too, it's one of those, and I'm curious on your thoughts on this. It's not so much of a tech solution as it may just need to be a behaviors and routines solution as well, in
Absolutely.
terms of, before kids had those Chromebooks, they were finding other ways to be distracted too. So I didn't know if you had any recommendations or good words of wisdom that you would kind of tell teachers that the rest of us can pass on to our teachers.
Oh, I wish I did. No, not particularly. No, I really, that's a hard one. And we've had students that even with something like this GoGuardian, which is fairly sophisticated from what I understand, we've had students find their way around it. So if a student is really wanting to get out of doing something, they're, unfortunately, they're pretty smart and they'll figure out a way to do it. I mean, short of building it into just your plan, your daily plan, a reminder, when you're finished, you can then, and here's a list of choices or what, but yeah, that being a good citizen of technology, that's hard. That's hard to do with kids because they know the kind of fun they can have on a piece of technology. And it's hard to separate. We've always struggled with that with devices. It's hard to separate. This is an educational device for you to use for school. Because how many times we get questions from students who say, can I put Minecraft on here? Can I put this on there? Can I put that video game on there? And it's like, we have to say, no. Can I actually stop them? No, probably not. But so that's a big, and it's probably something we all need to be more aware of, and that we need to try to keep separate. This is a device you use for work, and this is something at home you play with. But that's hard. That's a hard thing to do.
Well, and especially when I think even for the teachers, that's something that we do too, right?
Absolutely.
Like, we check our personal stuff. We might go to a different website. And so we want to have this separate expectation sometimes for our students. So I think having those conversations and having them as soon as possible, as opposed to just kind of having these very stern, black and white, no, this can't be on here. Yes, this can be on here. But having them have those consequences too, because I know some students, if they could find an extension that they liked and it met the standards, or depending on your different districts configurations, some of them, because they could find what worked best for them,
right,
they really latched onto those devices.
Yes.
and really made them work for themselves. And then of course, they found something that was gumming up the system. But that's a conversation you need to have, because that's good digital literacy down the line.
Yes, it
right?
is.
Like
Yes.
being cautious of what you download, being aware of the consequences of that. So yeah, I'm always that person that goes, it's your device. I'm going to tell you why I gave it to you, but
Yes.
I can't I
I'm
can't
going
be
to
there all
trust
the
that you'll
time.
use it. Yes, correct. I do. We used to, with some of the younger kids, we would say, now, we can see what you're doing on your computer, which was absolutely not true. But they didn't really know any differently at that point. I could never say that to an older student, because they would have immediately went, no, you can't. So, and no, so.
I may not see what they're doing while they're doing it, but I have my ways of finding out what they did.
Yeah. But I do think digital citizenry, I think that's something that, we're going to have to start thinking about making that part of our curriculums and things that we teach kids, because I think it is bigger than just in the schools.
Agreed. Agreed. All right. Well, we have just a few minutes. Let's see if we've got any other questions for Miss Carrie here. She is a wealth of knowledge. So please, I encourage you.
Well, and if not, I hope the presentation was helpful and you got some good information out of it. We're always trying to find the quickest, easiest, simplest things that we can provide to teachers to use. Because we always say the less it is, the less intrusive it is. So.
All right. So while we're waiting for those last minute questions, because there's always that one, they always wait to the very last second, and that's fine. I did put the link to our Toolkit Tuesdays webpage, and that will take you to all our previously recorded Toolkit Tuesdays. You can also find them on YouTube. I will upload those slides by the end of this week. And then I also put the contact information that you saw on the very last slide of that recording. So if you need to get hold of Carrie or the rest of the Austin ISD team, maybe you have some specific questions to how they're implementing and doing something over there in their program.
Yeah, and we're happy to answer if there are questions or share if there's something we can share. So.
Excellent. All right. Well, I'm going to go ahead and show our last bit of slides while we wait for our final questions and wrap up our afternoon. And I want to thank Carrie, of course, for being here with us. And I'm going to find my
Thank
slides.
Knowbility for doing this. It's very
Oh,
helpful.
no, this is always a good time. Oh, well, I'm glad you liked it, Megan. Did we answer all your questions today? Was there anything else you want to know?
No, you've answered that and more. Thank you very much.
Not a problem. All right, so while we're waiting for those last minute questions, just a reminder, we do have our December student panel coming up next month. So this will be December 2nd or 7th. Excuse me, December 7th. And I'm really excited about this panel. We're going to have some of the students that we featured in our Access EDU panel. I know that was a big hit last summer. We're pulling some other students that are actually college students as well. And we're going to really talk about their journey of self-advocacy. And I know that's kind of been a big topic with a lot of people. And how do we make sure our kids are able to advocate for themselves and really understand what they need and communicate those needs with their teachers in effective manners and some tools and strategies for them. So I hope you will be able to join us for December 7th. We're very excited about that one. All right. Well, I guess we're going to wrap up a little early, let everybody have some extra time for their lunch break. Miss Carrie, thank you so much for joining us today. This was a pleasure as always.
Absolutely.